I am highly disappointed in Bosch Spots and Chair Shots, a former team that I used to put over any chance that I got. I worked with them because I enjoyed the type of content that they put out. And I thought that we were on the same page. I thought that we were friends, but that decision was made for me that we are no longer friends. This is everything that I know, and this is my side because I do not tolerate when people want to talk shit about me on a TikTok live because it is easier to run to TikTok because you know the people on Twitter are not going to hold you accountable. If they don't know what's going on, and it's obviously no one's business, but when you call me a lackey and you smugly try to discredit that I worked at WWE without a hesitation, a second of hesitation, and my name gets dropped for no fucking reason to be pulled me back into this drama that I decided to freaking leave because it has nothing to do with me. Oh, it's become personal because I do not tolerate that type of disrespect. I do not tolerate that type of shit talking for someone to get away with it and think that it's okay. This situation never really involved me, but it has now. And this is my side, and the only reason why I am doing a podcast episode rather than talking with them on a Zoom call is because I know for a fact that I am going to get bombarded by both because they don't know how to have a calm, cool, collective conversation where we can reach a compromise. But I will say this in the beginning of this podcast episode, that I will no longer be associated with them. Everyone that I have blocked will stay blocked because I just don't deal with children. And if that makes you upset, I'm going to explain why in this whole entire episode, why I would say that I don't deal with children. I thought that I could deal with adults. I thought I was working with adults. Turns out I wasn't. For some reason in the podcasting community, as much as we say that we need to band together and have a community and lift each other up and that there is enough room at the table for everyone to eat if you are a wrestling podcaster, some shit happens where it's like a high school and everything falls apart when you think that you finally found a place that you can really put in the hard work, get put over, and we have great freaking memories together. But it's always that one person that's like, oh, it's never enough and we got to kick everybody out. And we got to make the decision for them. Normally, I reserve these kind of podcasts for people that have really overstepped their line and their boundary with me. And if my tone sounds angry, it's not anger. It is disappointment. It is frustration because we really did not need to go this route at all. We could have just went our separate ways. I was going to go my separate way anyway, but this was just a little more easier, a little bit more faster, and a little bit more telling me, all right, you're out too. But then again, I was already feeling out. So let me back up with everything. And for the last 2 months, I guess, or a month and a half, I haven't really talking to both Will Gray and Allison. For some odd reason, I don't know, there was just dead radio silence. For some odd reason, we kept doing our different things in the content creation world. Cool. But I started to notice that there was cracks either way because I would defend Bobby, as you know him as Yellow Shoe Guy, because he just thinks differently from everyone else and he has an opinion. And if everyone on the table or panel is able to have an opinion, he should too without any type of repercussions unless it's really, 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 really bad. But in my defense and in my case and in my interactions with him, his opinions are not bad. His opinions are just laid in facts rather than feeling. That's what's happening in this world. This world goes on feeling. This world goes on emotion. And it doesn't go on, I think this is how I look at the situation and this is my opinion. You can agree to disagree. Everyone, for some reason, has to be on the same type of agreement, even when you know that it might be wrong. or that maybe you just don't agree with it and you don't want to say anything to ruffle feathers. Cool. But at the same time, if you're not true to yourself, then why even do a podcast episode? Because then you're just going to be a dime a dozen. If you're not going to stand out from the crowd and be like, I don't agree with this because of X, Y, and Z, and X, Y, and Z is based in common sense, in critical thinking, and not in feeling, you'll be okay. There's a group of audiences out there that want you to tell the truth. There's a group of audiences out there that don't want you to sugarcoat anything when it comes to professional wrestling. Now, the way that you deliver and what you say is very different. If you're just going to say that the show sucks without any type of concrete evidence as to like why you think the show sucks or why you think a segment sucks, then your podcast is not going to do as well. You can't just say, oh, this sucks, that sucks, let's move on to the next topic. People want to hear that debate side where it's like, oh, this wasn't a good segment for me because I felt that it dragged. I felt that like if they would have cut it down maybe a couple seconds, it would have been okay. Or maybe if they would have brought out a different superstar that has a better chemistry with this wrestler, that'll be okay. So there are just some things to think about. If you're just doing a podcast just to be trendy and try to go on all the trends, it's not going to survive. It's going to survive a little bit, but it's not really going to survive how you want it to survive. So you basing your podcast around what you want is really important. And the people that you want on it is very important. If everybody has the same people on over and over and over and over again, you're really not going to grow. You're really not going to network out there. You're really not going to get your name out there as like you should have. And speaking on that point, I even went so far when the time that we weren't talking, there was a Twitter Spaces with the Maximo brothers, and I love those guys. And I decided to put over Will Gray in that space, even though we weren't talking. That's the type of person that I am, is because I know that there is value in some of the people that I work with, but now I'm sort of rethinking it. Just because if you are quick to throw somebody under the bus, and if you are quick to discredit somebody without a hesitation in your voice or even thinking twice about it, you're not fucking worth it. And then you have thrown the first personal attacks. You really told me in DMs that you never said a bad word about me, never insulted me. And you haven't until that TikTok live that Twitter doesn't know about, any other platforms don't know about. But I was there because I was there watching the guys. I was there listening to Bobby. And of course, everyone made up their mind. Everyone makes up their mind about the nice guy, but yet then keeps the manipulator and the narcissist there as well. Like, you can't shun somebody without like evidence, you know? Okay, let me tell you guys the story. I already mentioned that we have not talking for a week or two or whatever it was. We just weren't talking. And so I remember not too long ago, it could have been like at the end of like last month, that I put up a tweet and I said that you can make more friends with honey than vinegar. And this is where all the craziness just started. So after I put out that tweet, Bobby comes in and Bobby says, oh, I need to find a new home. And I was like, my door is always open. And he's like, cool. And I told him that I really enjoy his stories from when he was on the indies, such as like NWA, Smoky Mountain, and all those in that area and that territory of like Tennessee, to which he is a ring announcer. He doesn't do it as much now, but if you gave him the chance and you want him for your promotion, hit him up at Yellow Shoe Guy because he does really great announcing. So after all of that, including the part where Bobby and I continued to talk on this one tweet, here comes Will Gray searching out this one tweet, saw Bobby's name, and basically decided to put his foot in his mouth by putting a GIF that says incorrect because Bobby has said something in the previous tweet to me, and he decides to come in to just ruin the tweet when no one tagged him. No one said anything about him. So someone really vanity searched for this tweet. This is what started everything, because after that, Bobby did put a really good comeback, which, by the way, I need to remind everybody that I come from New York City. I was born and raised in New York City. That means that I have a different sense of humor than everybody else. That means that when somebody in New York City decides to roast your ass by clapping back at you, if I find that the clap back and the roast was a really good damn roast, I'm gonna respond with some type of gif. So I just did because that's what a New Yorker does. It's like, oh shit, that was a good roast. Good job. Does that mean that I picked a side? No, I didn't. In New York City, we roast each other nonstop. That does not mean that friendships are broken. That does not mean that we pick a side. That means that we're like, oh shit, good job for that joke. Good job for that roast. Good job for whatever you said. Because it was really a clapback. It really burned. So then I decided to mute the tweet because it was getting hostile. They were arguing, which we both later realized that it was a bad idea. To which, if you were there on the TikTok live, they did say that messages were exchanged. And this is where it gets a little weird, is because a group chat was formed with me in it. Because I guess anger was taking over, and it's like, you have an issue with Bobby. You don't have an issue with me. But then again, you cannot define your issue with Bobby because it makes no sense. Like, I need concrete, hard evidence to make a decision about the things that you said about Bobby. And there are no hardcore evidence or anything like that for me to be convinced that whatever you said about Bobby is true. If you would have gave me evidence inside the DM, which was a group DM by both of you guys, then maybe I could have made a decision. But at the same time, I did not need both of you guys to come into my DMs, make a group, and sort of threaten me, sort of try to be concerned, but threaten me as well, and try to guilt me into being on your side. Well, let's look at it, because I had a lot of time to think about this. If I were to believe you guys and decide to not hang out with Bobby or talk with Bobby, and if you guys weren't talking with me, then I would be out of friends, so to speak, because no one else really talks to me further in the group. It was a lose-lose situation for me, and my decision was ultimately picked because both of you guys in the DM, it was two of you during the TikTok live, Will just instantly threw Allison under the bus by saying that they're two different people. But if you're going to represent Boss Botch and Chair Shots together as a team, you guys do a lot of things together as a team, including that group message that you sent me. And yeah, I sent it to Bobby because I was not in it. If I responded to you guys, I know that I would get bombarded by both of you guys and nobody was going to listen. You guys had already made up your mind. Me, I had a choice to make, and my choice was already made for me because, again, I got threatened by, if I were to continue having a friendship with Bobby, I might get canceled. Well, guess what? I'm friends with people who got canceled in the podcasting community. It's not as big of a deal as you think it is, because even if you get canceled, there's other social media platforms out there, unless like someone really has it out for you and they really don't like you and they want to get you off of social media. But then again, it's the internet. You can also go outside and like go to places and talk about what you do and gain actual living people as fans. And then if they have a Spotify, if they have Apple Podcasts, and you're like, oh, look, here's my podcast episode. I'm not really on social media anymore, but if you want, here's my email, here's my newsletter. Stay in touch with me because that's a real person. On the internet, you can create bots, you can buy views, and you can start a mob mentality to try to get someone canceled. But when you go out into the real world and talk to real people that don't know shit about what's happening on the internet, you're still fine, you're still around. Plus, anyway, if people really do that, if people really cancel others because they want to hold them accountable for something that doesn't make sense, like, get a life, man. There's a lot of things that people do that is uncalled for, and yeah, there should be some type of standard or accountability. But again, you're not their parents. You don't pay their rent. And for you to try to cancel someone for like their livelihood because you don't agree with whatever they say, that is so wrong in itself. Like, really, it's so wrong in itself. So I don't understand why you guys are so afraid of getting canceled when someone has a very, very strong opinion that comes with facts, that comes with more details. So anyway, let me get back to the group chat thing. So if I were to respond to you guys, again, I would get bombarded. So what I did, I left the situation because it does not involve me. Not at all. So I sent it to Bobby because I was like, yo, this is fucked up. Like, I'm leaving this situation. It's between you and them, not me. That's essentially why, like, I sent him the messages. And you know what's really fucked up? You know how you're not an adult? An adult would have been like, after you had a conversation with Bobby to be like, hey, we feel that you are not fit for our show, so we're going to go our separate ways. We could still be friends. We could still cross paths if need be, but you're just not a good fit for the show. Bobby would have understood because Bobby's an adult, and he would have been like, okay, he'll probably give you his blessings and you guys go on your merry way. And then you guys could have texted me via DMs on Twitter and be like, hey, we just cut ties with Bobby. I apologize. It's an inconvenience. I know, because we all used to be friends, and I hope that, you know, we could still work together in the future. Our paths will cross, but we just wanted to let you know, out of common courtesy, out of empathy, out of compassion, that we will no longer be working with Bobby. And I know that we're friends, and sorry that this may cause an inconvenience to the group. But no, what did I get met with? Concern, threats, and nonsense. Just because you guys thought that I sided with Bobby because he roasted your ass pretty well on Twitter. The tweets might still be there. I don't know, guys. But I don't think that's how you do business. And again, the only reason why I'm doing this podcast is because I know that I would not get a word in because people have already made up their minds. And if we were to talk this out, I would not have that support in a debate where the person is like, excuse me, let her finish. Because if you were there during that TikTok live, the way that Will Gray tends to argue with somebody is to talk over them, is to do that whole thing where he backtracks, but then leaps 2 steps ahead and try to make him look like the good guy and the other guy the bad guy for no fucking reason. And then to throw people under the bus, throw me under the bus, throw Allison under the bus, because he didn't want to really admit that it was a group chat that was sent and not individual chats. If it was an individual DM, then by all means, you can say, oh, well, Allison sent you that second message. I did not do that. I had no knowledge of that. Then you would have been fine. But you're not as smart as you think you are. You're not. So basically, that's the gist of it. And the only reason why I'm upset is because after every fucking thing that I have done to put you guys over, to make sure that people know about Boss Botch and Chair Shots, to know about Will Gray, to know about Allison. And, you know, as much as this really bothers me, the way that Will just threw me under the bus, the way that he just tried to discredit me on TikTok when I'm trying to grow a following so that people can be charmed by his stupidity rather than like not saying anything about it. You know, it hurts. And I had a lot of time to think about it. And I realized that every time that I get into a group, it's like I try to be the one to uplift everybody and like make sure everyone has a voice. And I get that support back. I'm not saying that I don't. But at the same time, it's like, what the fuck really did happen to make us get to this point that we couldn't be adults about it and do what I previously said not too long ago? where you guys would have came into my DMs and be like, hey, we parted ways. I'm sorry for the inconvenience, but I hope we could still work together. So let me leave Will Gray alone because, man, I don't tolerate fucking disrespect like that. And for someone to get away with it and no one wants to hold them accountable for it is kind of fucked up. This next section is for Allison, and Allison only. Allison, this is us talking. First, I want to say that I have read the message sent to me. The only reason why I didn't respond is because I didn't know what kind of reaction I was going to get. And again, I cannot trust you or Will anymore. So a podcast episode is going to have to suffice because, again, I don't like the way that conversations happen, especially when people get heated and when people have already made up their minds. But I will start with saying that I will accept your apology. I'm just still going to be disappointed because we did not need to go this route. We did not need to do any of this stuff. And it's really unfair. But I will say that I will cherish all the times that I had fun on Boss Spots and Chair Shots, and I will cherish all the times that you have shown me support. I will cherish the time that you decided to buy my wrestling planner. I made that wrestling planner for you, for Will, for everyone in the podcasting community because I know you guys like to write. I know you guys like to go on wrestling indies and like to write down your notes, write down your thoughts. So I made it for you guys. I never made it with the intent of like, oh my God, let me get quick money. I made it. The only reason why I'm fumbling my words is because I feel bad that you and I are in this situation. I really do. Because after a couple of days of thinking about it, you're a fucking innocent bystander, okay? With the wrestling planner, just quickly to close that part out, I made it for you guys because I never really wanted that get quick rich scheme. I made it for you guys because I know that there was a purpose that it will serve. Now, Allison, you have a really huge heart. You have a really good loyalty. And that's something that in a friendship is needed. It really is. So I appreciate that from you. And I do appreciate your concern. However, if I've never confided in you in any type of DMs where I would have expressed that I felt unsafe, I've never felt unsafe in this whole situation. I've never felt unsafe whenever we were on the panel together and Bobby was there. I never felt unsafe. Plus, anyway, you have to remember, because I was born in New York City, I know assholes from a mile away. I can smell danger. Like, I can protect myself. But I do want to extend and say that I appreciate the fact that you felt it was a concern, but it was done in the wrong way where it left a really bad taste in my mouth, rather than trying to calm down and explain the situation or explain a different side or show me some evidence to where I can make an informed decision, because your decision and Will's decision was taken out of my hands. And for anyone that's going to be listening to this, you might say to yourself, well, then if they made it for you, why you're making this podcast episode? It's because I like to have closure sometimes. I like to bring awareness to really idiotic shit that should have never happened, and how to really fix situations by being a fucking adult. And like I said, if we ever have a Zoom call about this, I'm not going to get a word in because of the way that they have a conversation. If they're not having a conversation like how you hear me right now on this podcast, then it's not really going to work out. But I will say again that I do cherish that, Allison, you are really a big help and you are a sweetheart. The only thing that I would suggest is to lower down your anger and lower down, I guess, you being a feminist, because I just don't agree with certain things about the way that women should be treated like gods and all that, and like really go right into feminism. Like, there are certain things that in wrestling, it sometimes has to be that way, you know? And then your anger when you get upset, like, relax, take a look around, understand the situation before really going off on people. I've experienced it a couple of times, but I will overlook that because I know that you mean well. But at the same time, it's like, remember the people that you're dealing with and like where they grew up and the environments that they grew up, and it's not the same thing. Social media has been constructed to feel like we're all in the same bubble, we all have the same experiences, and we all like grew up the same, and that's not the case. That's really not. And I think that if those two things that you work on, it will be highly beneficial just to be an all-around person that understands that someone is going to be different from me, and that's okay. And it definitely could be the opposite sex, it could be the same sex, it could be whoever, but I honestly shouldn't be giving advice like that because it's not needed or asked. The same way that those DM messages weren't needed or asked for, even though days later I can understand why you'll be concerned. But if I never felt unsafe with all three of you guys, then everything would have been fine. But I honestly want to reiterate that you have a huge heart and you mean well. It's just that, again, depending on who you're dealing with, just take into consideration that they may be okay. If you think that they may not be okay, you could definitely message them and be like, hey, I just want to make sure that you're okay. I'm here for you, which is all fine. But just understand that everyone is completely different. I do hold all of our memories in a very good light, okay? I really do. Everything that I ever told you, I meant it. When we were on the panels together and you were watching some more old school wrestling and, all that kind of stuff, and I told you that I am really proud of you, fuck yeah, I was really proud of you. Like, I was proud of the group. Now I'm just disappointed because of how everything played out and how much of it is like, why are we here? Why are we doing this? Why is Bobby getting bullied for an opinion that may or may not be outdated depending on how you look at it, depending on how you think? Again, Bobby grew up in a different era, in a different timeline than us. I was born in the 90s. Bobby wasn't really born in the 90s, but you can understand that because we have different perspectives, that is what makes us, all of us, unique to this world, unique to this podcasting game. And to shun somebody who is very nice, who will probably give you the shirt off of his back or make you food or maybe have you sleep in his house if you had nowhere to go for like a night. A really nice guy, and a guy that doesn't want confrontation, and a guy that would understand if someone is feeling uncomfortable, he'll back off, but then people just egg on and, he just does what he does. It's like, why? I just don't understand it. But Allison, you are a sweetheart. It's just that, like I said, I will take your apology, but I will still be disappointed. I also thought that when you get into a group and you form a friendship and you know that you guys do the same thing that everyone else does, meaning a podcast, and you stream on Twitch, and I thought that in a friend group you can share ideas, right? Because you ultimately want the other people that do podcasting with you to be elevated because you know that what you use is going to work for them. So I remember that when I gave that piece of advice to get Stream Elements, because when you sign up for Stream Elements, every streamer knows this, not only do you get sponsorships from Stream Elements to help you make a little passive income on the side when you are a Twitch affiliate. That's the only way that you can unlock that. But even if you're not Twitch affiliate, you can still use Stream Elements for everything else. You can use it for the chat bot, which you really do need if you're going to be on Twitch. You can use it for the chat timers, meaning that you put a description, a name, maybe some links, and every time that people chat in the Twitch chat, a reminder pops up. So that way you as the streamer can focus on streaming, maybe chatting with chat, but you can ultimately give them an entertaining type of stream. So I gave the advice out of being enthusiastic because I was like, hey, this is going to help you guys out more. You guys could have a timer bot, and every time somebody chats, that reminder is going to pop up. So for example, if you wanted Stream Elements to remind people that you have a Patreon, a Discord, make sure to follow the stream if they're enjoying it. If they want to give a tip, make sure that, they know where to go to give that tip. If you have merch, all the big and best streamers on Twitch, on YouTube, on anywhere else that you can stream, use some type of timer bot. Everyone uses it. I use it. So when I brought it up that day in the DMs, I got met with the most nastiest fucking comment response from Will. And you know what I did? I became the big adult and I said, I'm sorry. I'm never going to overstep my bounds or something like that, where I apologized and essentially said, I should have never said anything. That's me paraphrasing it. I don't really remember because I got out of that group chat because it was really wrong for that to happen. And yes, while I did say that I would never recommend anything again to them, I did get a half-assed apology that I forgave, but I never forgot. And again, got disappointed because if your friend is trying to tell you something that would be beneficial for you, and to respond with what works for you don't work for us, and we'll do it our own way, you are still having people see the behind the scenes of your Twitch administration on stream. That doesn't make it a professional stream. And it bothers me that everybody who has a live stream who's on Twitch don't utilize free resources to help boost their stream to make it fun and make it awesome. There are other ways to be smart about it. There are other ways to really get to know how to be a really great streamer. Even if you're streaming for like 2 hours, 3 hours, and it's just a wrestling show. So, learn my lesson. Don't give advice in a group chat where you want other people to grow. Also, for the record, because I have a knowledge in wrestling and a knowledge in creative writing with a publishing certificate, here are some things that you guys will probably need to know. You cannot get a WWE job through a temp agency. If you guys go on my TikTok at Marie_Shadows, you guys would know that I put a video up there because Will had said that you could get a wrestling job through a temp agency, and there is no evidence on that. It's not founded. Like, what temp agency is going to be with wrestling companies? If that was the case, every single fan on Twitter, on Reddit, on TikTok who has a podcast will definitely get a job in wrestling. The second thing I want to mention is that because I have a creative writing degree, that means I took several classes that dealt with different forms of writing. So like novel writing, screenwriting, radio writing, TV writing, and they all follow the same format except for a novel and short stories. But radio, TV, and screenplays have the same format. The only thing that be different might be the fonts, might be how much you indent, but essentially they all follow the same format. Oh, and also a theater play too will follow the same format. So yeah, they're not different at all. And this is coming from someone who has a degree, because I was told that it's different when a wrestling writer who writes for TV, they can't write for radio and they can't write for something else, which is not the case. When you learn the formats of screenplays, theater plays, radio, TV. It's the same thing. Just a couple tiny little details might be changed, but it's the same thing. So to wrap this all up, I normally don't like doing these type of podcast episodes. I only have 2 in existence because I had a stalker on Twitter and she just really wasn't leaving me alone. And I reserve these for people who overstep their boundaries, overstep the line. There's a lot of things that I will dismiss, but the moment that you throw me under the bus and try to discredit me, then I will have to say something because we have a history of working together. This isn't like it's a random thing to talk about. If it was a random thing to talk about, there will be no podcast episode. And usually when trolls try to step up to me and try to discredit the fact that I worked at WWE, which is legit, I usually drop my PayPal link because you guys are having me waste energy and anger. So I need to get paid for my time. Or I tell them now that they could go get my wrestling planner at amazon.com/author/Marie Shadows. Because again, I'm wasting my energy on high school shit. But this is a different case where I know the people and we work together and I always put them over and I always make sure that people know about their names. But the way that this went down, no. So I had to say something about it, and this is just to bring awareness. Moving forward, I will no longer be associated with Boss Spots and Chair Shots. And like I said, everyone that I have blocked will stay blocked. I am in the podcasting business for professional wrestling to be professional about it and to collaborate with adults and have some really good content and not collaborate with children. Again, if that makes you upset, I'm so sorry, but that's what it is. That's what this came down to. You guys who are listening to this, you guys could do whatever the hell you want. You can still be friends with them. You can associate with them. But word to the wise, keep your eyes and ears open. That's all I'm going to say. I wish that it never came to this. I wish that we were adults and talked about it and everything would have been fine. But when you want to be the center of attention, when you want to mouth off and think no one is going to call you out on bullshit with receipts and experiences and thoughts and opinions that, you know, you're just going to get away with it. No, doesn't fly with me because I've never said a bad thing about you. And it was going to stay that way until that TikTok live where you threw me under the bus. That don't fly. Because we could have still been friends, just far apart friends, but no, you kind of burned that bridge. And by guilty of association, Allison is also in that too. So that's why there is no coming back from this because I can't trust either one of you. And I'm making it known on this podcast just because, like I said, if we ever did this during a Zoom call, I won't get a word in because the way that Will likes to have a conversation, which is not an adult type of conversation. And if this gets me canceled and have backlash, I'll be okay. I'll be fine. I have more of an interest in lifting up the podcasting community, lifting up the wrestlers that I interact with and make sure that they have more eyes on their content. And I will stand by their side until some situation comes up where it might be a fucked up situation. But even then, we're talking about it like adults. I'm not just going to throw them to the side after everything that I've done for them because people do make mistakes and people do deserve second chances. But with me, sometimes it might just be one and done because, like I said, if I can't trust you after everything, then don't expect any type of friendship. And that's just because somebody else burned a bridge and someone had to be an associate with it. And that's how I roll. I never really had to make that type of decision at all in my life, but today is the day that I am making that decision. And if I do get backlash for this episode, then so be it. You guys are not listening with your ears wide open. You are going on feeling. And if you go on feeling, then it's not a conversation, is it? if you're not going to understand the person's perspective and their experience and be like, well, I'm not in it, but I can understand where she's coming from, then maybe we have a chance to have a conversation. But other than that, everyone who is associated with Boss Spots and Share Shots can do whatever they want, can still be friends with them, can still be friends with me. I'm not closing the door on that. You know, it's a situation that happened. We can move on. We're going to do our own thing. Obviously, they're going to continue to do what they got to do. I'm going to continue to do what I got to do. And in the event that if you see me live on Twitch and you see Bobby there, if he ever wants to come on my show, and if that's not for you, that's totally fine. You don't have to watch my show. The same way that you don't have to listen to this podcast if you don't want to. You have the choice. You have the choice to do whatever you want to do. I'm not going to take that choice away from you the same way that no one should take choices away from me, right? So, thank you for listening to this episode of Backstabbing Friends on the Square Circle Podcast by yours truly, Marie Shadow. I honestly did not want to have to do this. I usually reserve this for people who fuck up. And that was a fuck up during that TikTok live. By the way, if you're not following me on TikTok, please do. I need to get to 1K friends. I am halfway there. The only reason why I want to get to 1K friends is two things now. One, to go live to talk to you about professional wrestling and have different content on TikTok than I do on Twitch. The second one is that if anyone else decides to talk shit to me while I can't defend myself, I can have that 1,000 friends. I can request to go live on a panel and defend myself when somebody wants to talk shit to me. Because I just don't play that shit at all. I really don't. You know that video where it's like, fuck around and find out? Can you guys please stop doing that with New Yorkers? Because New Yorkers are a whole nother breed than anyone else in this country. Except for, well, not except for. I'm going to add Detroit and New York and anywhere else that we definitely don't tolerate that kind of shit. You guys really need to stop with that whole fuck around and find out type of shit when it comes to New Yorkers. You guys got to stop that. All right. This is everything that I have to say. This is the last time that I'm even talking about this. It will not be brought up. This podcast will remain up. And if you don't like it, then you're not trying to help the podcasting community at all, or even the wrestling community. Also, I really, really, really want to push the fact that do not take sides after you listen to this podcast episode. We could all still be friends. We could all still pass each other and be professionals about it. But do not take sides. That's not the point of this podcast episode at all. This is just giving my side with the facts and why I don't tolerate people talking shit to me and think they could get away with it. That's all it is. Thank you for listening to this podcast episode. I really don't like doing these things. But if you really enjoyed it, obviously, follow me on Spotify. I now know how many people follow me on Spotify. Thank you for that. Follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Marie_Shadows, where we watch professional wrestling. Sign up to my newsletter, marieshadows.substack.com, for all your wrestling needs. Sign up to my Patreon. We are celebrating women's wrestling. I just dropped Jazz versus Steve Corino reaction on my Patreon, patreon.com/Squared Circle Society, because we are all here for the wrestling fandom. We're all here to elevate each other. We're all here to give each other high fives and talk about professional wrestling. Follow me on TikTok. Follow me on Twitter @Marie_Shadows. And please, ladies and gentlemen, don't make this bigger than what it is. I just wanted to tell my side. Do not go send hate to anybody. That's not the point of this. The point of this is just a way to raise awareness for people who think that they're bigger than everyone else and don't think that no one's going to call them out on their fucking bullshit. And I personally don't like to have people talk shit about me where I can't defend myself. All right, I said that way too many times. All right, guys, thank you for listening. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.